It's hard for me to evaluate the deep psychology of those men, but as far as I can tell, they're threatened by anybody that doesn't fit into their perfect paragraph on their.
Eustace Conway has spent a lifetime living off the grid, mastering the wilderness, and preserving the ways of the past. On the hit show Mountain Men, viewers have followed him through forests, rivers, and mountains, watching him hunt, build, and survive in conditions most people couldn't imagine. But what happened recently in his private workshop shocked even his closest allies. For years, Eustace has kept his workspace off-limits, a place where tools, inventions, and personal projects remain hidden from the public eye, until now. Crew members, researchers, and local experts who were granted rare access describe what they found as unnerving, unexpected, and in some cases, borderline terrifying. Inside the workshop, evidence of intricate traps, unusual weaponry, and mysterious mechanical devices hinted at skills and experiments far beyond what the cameras usually capture. Some items were practical, used for survival or teaching, while others were cryptic, raising questions about what Eustace has been preparing for in the heart of the wilderness. Sources say that even the production crew felt a chill walking among the racks of tools, jars of specimens, and organized chaos that filled every corner. It was like stepping into another world, one crew member said. You could tell this was a place where serious, even dangerous, work happened, and it wasn't meant for us to see. Now, for the first time, the story behind Eustace Conway's workshop is coming to light. A glimpse at the man behind the legend, the secrets he keeps, and the terrifying discoveries that prove living off the land isn't just Eustace Conway as a man who has dedicated his life to mastering the wilderness. Known for his rugged survival skills and his role on Mountain Men, Eustace has always kept a part of his life private, his workshop. For years, fans have seen him building shelters, hunting and teaching survival skills, but very few have glimpsed the space where he actually creates, experiments, and plans. The workshop sits just beyond the main cabin, tucked away among thick trees and rocky terrain. It is deceptively simple from the outside, a weathered wooden structure surrounded by tools and scraps of metal, wood, and rope. But inside, the reality is far more complex. As soon as crew members stepped inside for the first time, they were struck by the sheer intensity of the space. It was organized chaos, said a longtime cameraman. Every surface was covered with tools, materials, and inventions. But it wasn't random. You could tell Eustace knew exactly what he had and where it was. It was both meticulous and overwhelming. Among the more practical items were handcrafted traps, survival tools, and workbenches covered in knives, hammers, and saws. These were the tools of a man who has lived off the land for decades, items necessary for hunting, repairing, and crafting. But interspersed with these were objects that raised eyebrows, jars of preserved specimens, intricate mechanical devices, and strange contraptions whose purpose was unclear. What really caught us off guard, the crew recalled, was the sense that some of these items weren't just for survival. They were experiments. Some were clever, some were intimidating, and some we honestly didn't want to touch. Eustace, true to his nature, had long warned outsiders not to touch or disturb his workspace. It wasn't simply about safety, though there were sharp tools and potentially dangerous devices everywhere. It was about secrecy. "This is my mind on display," he told a crew member. "Not everything out here is for the public eye. Some of it is learning, some of it is problem-solving, and some of it is preparation for things most people can't even imagine." The discoveries in the workshop were varied. Some items were familiar to fans of his wilderness lifestyle: handmade bows, traps for small game, survival knives, and fire-starting tools. Others, however, were more perplexing. There were small mechanical devices whose functions weren't immediately obvious, jars containing unusual specimens, and stacks of notes detailing experiments that combined nature, mechanics, and resourcefulness in ways few had ever seen. "It was like stepping into a different world," said one crew member. "You realize that what we see on camera, hunting, building cabins, teaching survival, is only a fraction of what Eustace does. This workshop is where the real ingenuity happens, and some of it is genuinely frightening, Even the most seasoned crew members admitted feeling a chill when walking among the shelves and benches. The space was alive with energy, not supernatural, but a palpable intensity born from years of solitude, experimentation, and focus. Every tool, every jar, every device seemed to tell a story about the man who had spent decades pushing himself to survive and thrive in environments most people would never dare enter. Yet amidst the unsettling discoveries, there was also admiration. "You can't help but respect what he's built here," said the producer. "This isn't just a workshop. It's a testament to a life lived on the edge, to the relentless pursuit of knowledge, and to a dedication most of us could never match." By the end of the visit, the crew left with more questions than answers. The workshop revealed a side of Eustace Conway that the cameras rarely capture. A man who is not only a survival expert, but also an inventor, a thinker, and someone whose preparation for life in the wild borders on obsession. It was a glimpse into the mind of a man whose life is far more complex, far more disciplined, and far more terrifying than the world had ever realized. A lifestyle. It's a commitment few could survive. Once inside Eustace Conway's workshop, the crew quickly realized that not everything they were seeing was ordinary. While the space contained tools and survival equipment familiar to anyone following his mountain men adventures, other discoveries revealed a side of Eustace that few had ever witnessed, a side that was unsettling, intense, and sometimes downright terrifying. On the far wall of the workshop, the crew discovered a series of jars containing preserved animal specimens. Some were small, like birds or snakes, but others were larger, and displayed in ways that suggested more than just study. "It was scientific but eerie," said a cameraman who had filmed multiple seasons. The precision, the organization. You could tell that every specimen had a purpose. And it wasn't just for decoration. Nearby, several mechanical devices drew attention. Some appeared to be traps, though far more complex than anything typically used for hunting. There were intricate pulleys, levers, and cages, all interconnected in a way that suggested experimentation and ingenuity. "At first, we didn't know if they were functional or just prototypes," one producer recalled. "But Eustace assured us they worked, and that they were meant for survival scenarios that most of us would never encounter." Among the most unnerving items were notebooks filled with detailed diagrams. The pages contained careful sketches of tools, mechanisms, and even wilderness tactics. Some diagrams were familiar, methods of trapping, fire-making, or water filtration. Others, however, were cryptic, combinations of nature and machinery that left the crew guessing. "It felt like stepping into a mind that's always thinking 10 steps ahead," said a crew member. There was intelligence, yes, but also a hint of obsession. Some of it was brilliant, and some of it frightening. Another unsettling discovery was a small collection of ancient-looking weapons, knives, axes, and handmade clubs. These weren't for display. They showed signs of regular use and careful maintenance. "You could tell Eustace respects the tools," the cameraman explained. "Each one is functional, honed, and ready for action." And that's when it hit me. If he needed to, he could survive situations that would terrify most people. The crew also found evidence of experiments involving fire, water, and natural materials. Test rigs for combustion, harnesses for lifting, and improvised water filtration systems filled corners of the workshop. While some were clearly survival experiments, others seemed like personal challenges, exercises designed to test his skills, endurance, and ingenuity. "It was impressive," said a sound engineer, "but also a little unsettling. You realized that this man lives in a constant state of preparation." Throughout the workshop, the crew noticed a sense of control and organization that bordered on obsession. Everything had a place, every tool accounted for, every specimen labeled. "It's terrifying in the sense that it's so calculated," a producer said. "This is a man who is entirely self-reliant, and he has built a system that ensures he can survive anything." Despite the intensity, there was also a method to the madness. Eustace explained that many of his experiments were meant for education, teaching younger generations, showing how ancient survival techniques could be adapted to modern life. "He's a teacher at heart," a crew member reflected. "But even his teaching is rigorous. There's no cutting corners. And if you make a mistake, there's a real consequence. You can see it in his eyes. The terrifying discoveries weren't just about the tools or the experiments. They were about insight into Eustace's mind. The workshop revealed a man constantly planning, analyzing, and preparing. A man whose life is dedicated not just to survival, but to mastery of every element around him. "It's inspiring," said the cameraman, "but also a little frightening. You realize this isn't a hobby. This is a life lived on the edge." By the end of the day, the crew left the workshop with a mixture of awe and unease. They had glimpsed a part of Eustace Conway that few outsiders ever see, a man whose ingenuity, dedication, and intensity are as thrilling as they are terrifying. And though the public may never know every detail, what they captured on camera would only hint at the true depth of the wilderness genius that is Eustace Conway. Eustace Conway's workshop was already unsettling, filled with strange experiments, mechanical devices, and preserved specimens. But as the crew explored further, they discovered areas even more secretive: locked doors, hidden corners, and spaces that had remained untouched for decades. These hidden sections of the workshop revealed a man whose life and mind are far more complex than the television cameras ever capture. One of the first surprises came when a small side door was opened, revealing a narrow corridor lined with shelves stacked floor to ceiling. The shelves held jars, boxes, and bundles, all meticulously labeled. Many contained materials for survival, dried herbs, roots, and animal parts, but others were more cryptic. Tiny mechanisms, strange contraptions, and unfinished projects hinted at experiments that no one outside this secluded world had ever seen. "It felt like stepping into a vault," said a producer. "You could tell this area had been untouched for years." The level of organization was insane, and the purpose of some items was completely unknown to us. Behind another locked cabinet, the crew found journals and notes dating back decades. These weren't simple observations about hunting or building shelters. They were detailed records of experiments, trials, and failures. Some entries described testing homemade traps, while others detailed strategies for surviving extreme weather, tracking animals, or purifying water in the wild. "It was like peering into the mind of someone who's always 3 steps ahead," said a cameraman. Every line showed careful planning, precision, and a deep understanding of nature. But not everything in these hidden corners was practical. Some items were bizarre: small devices whose function was a mystery, artistic displays of natural elements, and tools modified in ways that seemed dangerous or experimental. "It was equal parts genius and madness," said a sound engineer. "You could tell Eustace knew exactly what he was doing, but we couldn't help feeling a little uneasy." Another startling discovery was a room dedicated to weapons and survival gear. Axes, knives, bows, and other tools were lined with precision. Each was maintained, polished, and ready for use. "It wasn't a display," one crew member said. "These were real tools, meant to be used if needed." It reminded us that Eustace doesn't just teach survival, he lives it every day. One of the most unsettling areas contained mechanical devices connected to pulley systems, levers, and counterweights. The crew wasn't sure if these were traps, tools, or experiments in physics and engineering. Eustace refused to explain everything, only saying, "Some knowledge is earned. Some things are meant to be discovered through experience, not shown outright." The hidden corners also revealed a side of Eustace's personality rarely seen on camera: the obsessive attention to detail, the meticulous organization, and the quiet intensity. Every corner, every shelf, every tool had a purpose, reflecting a life lived entirely in preparation for the unpredictable. "He's not just surviving the wilderness," said a producer. "He's mastering it, and it shows in every inch of this workshop." Despite the eerie and sometimes frightening discoveries, there was also an undeniable sense of awe. The crew recognized the brilliance behind the chaos, the creativity behind the experiments, and the dedication behind every meticulous note and device. "It's terrifying," said the cameraman, "but you can't help but respect it." This is a man who has built his life around understanding, respecting, and mastering nature in a way few people could ever imagine. By the end of their exploration, the crew understood that Eustace Conway's workshop is more than a workspace. It's a reflection of a mind that never stops learning, never stops experimenting, and never stops preparing. The hidden rooms, locked cabinets, and secret corners revealed a man driven by survival, knowledge, and an almost obsessive attention to detail. For anyone who thinks Mountain Men only shows outdoor survival, these discoveries were a wake-up call. Eustace Conway isn't just surviving, and he's building, inventing and preparing for the unknown in ways most of us could never comprehend. And the workshop, with all its hidden corners, remains the ultimate testament to his dedication, ingenuity, and the terrifying intensity of a life lived on the edge. The revelation of Eustace Conway's hidden bunker sent shockwaves through everyone who had ever worked with or studied the survivalist. What was initially a curiosity became an intense investigation as the FBI carefully documented the space, its contents, and its implications. For fans of Mountain Men, the discovery painted a portrait of Conway unlike anything previously seen on television. A man whose preparation, ingenuity, and intensity bordered on the extraordinary. Inside the bunker, the FBI cataloged supplies designed for long-term survival, stockpiles of food, water purification systems, medical kits, and even alternative energy setups. The scale of preparation was staggering. Most survivalists have a plan for a week or two, said an agent. Eustace's planning extended for months, maybe even years. He thought of every scenario, natural disasters, accidents, or situations we might not even imagine. But the most striking aspect wasn't just the supplies, it was the organization, the attention to detail, and the hidden complexities within the bunker. Secret compartments, reinforced doors, and cleverly camouflaged areas demonstrated a level of strategic thinking that went far beyond simple survival. "It's almost military-grade in its precision," said a crew member. And yet, it was all done with an elegance that reflected his personal philosophy of living in harmony with nature. Disturbing elements were also uncovered. The mechanical devices, cryptic journals, and preserved specimens revealed a side of Conway that was both brilliant and unsettling. Some of the devices were clearly experimental, designed to test survival skills or create solutions in unconventional ways. Others were more mysterious, hinting at contingency plans that were never fully explained. "You could feel the intensity of his mind in the room," said a cameraman. "Every object, every sketch, every note was deliberate. It was impressive, but also a little frightening." Despite the unease, the FBI and crew recognized a deeper purpose behind the bunker. Conway had built a space that not only ensured his survival, but served as a living laboratory for learning, teaching, and testing survival strategies. The journals and diagrams demonstrated his commitment to education, sharing knowledge with those willing to learn, while maintaining a level of privacy and control that ensured the space remained safe. "It's about knowledge, mastery, and respect for life," one investigator said. "He's not reckless, he's intentional." For the production crew, the bunker provided new insights into Conway's personality and his approach to survival. "On camera, he's tough, resourceful, and fearless," said a producer. "But in this hidden space, you see the meticulous planning and intellectual rigor behind everything. This is a man who doesn't leave anything to chance." The discovery also sparked questions about the legal and ethical implications of such preparation. While the FBI found no illegal activity, the intensity and scale of Conway's bunker raised concerns for neighbors and local authorities. "It's a delicate balance," an agent explained. "We're looking at someone who is highly prepared, extremely knowledgeable, and extraordinarily private. But his level of preparation makes people curious and sometimes uneasy. For viewers and fans, the bunker changes the perception of Eustace Conway. The man seen on Mountain Men is not just a survivalist, but a visionary, a strategist, and a teacher whose private preparations reflect a lifetime dedicated to mastering the wild. Every detail of the bunker, from the hidden compartments to the experimental devices, illustrates a life lived with purpose, intelligence, and unflinching attention to detail. Ultimately, the FBI's reveal shows that Conway's legend extends far beyond television. His hidden bunker is a testament to his dedication, his ingenuity, and his understanding of the unpredictable challenges of wilderness survival. It's both disturbing and awe-inspiring, a window into the mind of a man whose commitment to preparation, mastery, and secrecy has created a world most of us could barely imagine. As the investigation concluded and the bunker's contents were carefully documented, one truth remained clear. Eustace Conway is not just surviving, he is mastering life itself. And the hidden bunker proves that there are depths to his knowledge, preparation, and determination that even the most dedicated fans have never witnessed.